G'day fellas, and welcome to the Ottoman build order guide. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at 3 different Ottoman build orders that you can use. The first build order is going to be a fast town center build order. This will be something that you'll be familiar with from other civilizations, where the idea is to just expand as quickly as possible. Keep in mind that town centers have been nerfed in the patch that we'll be playing on, where town centers now cost an extra 50 stone and also take an extra 30 seconds to build. The second build order that we're going to be looking at is going to be a Dark Age aggression into a feudal defense, where you then expand up to 3 town centers. I think this build order is probably going to become the standard build order for the Ottomans, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. It's going to be especially good in matchups where you can get value out of early spearmen. The third build order is going to be a trade-orientated build order. This is the one I've got the least confidence in at the moment, just simply because of the status of trade. I don't know exactly where trade currently sits in the meta. It's still working its way in. But if you're interested in seeing one of the 3 build orders, I'll make sure I leave timestamps in the description so you can jump along to it. But without further ado, let's begin with the first build order. What we're going to be doing is moving all of our 6 villagers onto sheep. We're going to make sure that we queue up villagers in the town center first. So let's start that again. So we're gonna make sure we queue up all of our villagers in the town center, shift Q, and then we're going to move all of our villagers onto sheep, and then we're going to click the sheep and move it closer to the town center. Like that. Wonderful. And now we're going to make sure that we pick up the 2 sheep that are closest to our town center. And then we're going to move our scout towards the direction of our enemy. So we don't want to start by scouting out the back of our base. We always want to start by scouting out the front of our base first, because our enemy, as you can see, look at it. I mean, look at this. The enemy wastes no time. He's already halfway across the map, 21 seconds into the game. So it is important to try and get in the front of your base, try and find those sheep as quickly as possible. Now, it depends what your scouting route is and how you want to play it, but for me, as the Ottomans, I'm happy to play a little bit more of a defensive route. Now, the first villager that comes out of the town center, it's going to be straight out to gold, and with this villager, the first one out of the town center, you're going to make a house into a mining camp. It's always. The next villager that follows up from there is going to be going to food. So you get it's a little bit of a mix and a match. It's gold, food, gold, food. They're your first 4 villagers. It might seem a little bit complicated, but it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So our next villager has now come out onto food. You can see we're up to a total of 7. And now we've got our second gold villager coming out. And the idea behind this is that you want these 2 villagers to hit the gold mine at the same time. Now, it might not be might not be exact, but you can see we've got 3 gold on this one, and then compare that over to the other one, which is apparently they're both sitting on pretty close. They're about 1 or 2 golds different apart, and that's exactly where you want it. And the reason why, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but this is really important. And now we're going to move our 8th villager over onto food. So now that we've got that 8 and 2, that is where we stop with our golden food, and now we're going to start rallying out to wood. Now, the reason that we go for a bit of a weird opening like this, and the justification for it is, if you think of the Abbasid dynasty or the French, why are you why is it easier for those civilizations? Well, you can just rally 7 onto food or 8 onto food or however many it is, and then you just rally onto gold, and you rally 3, 4 vills onto gold, and you leave them on gold, and you age up and you keep those villagers on gold. With the Ottomans, we don't need to keep those villagers on gold, because all we need to do is age up. So we want to try and collect this gold as quickly as possible. We also want to make sure it's as efficient as possible, and by doing that, we're minimizing our walking distance by only having 2 villagers come out here. But to do that, they've got to be out here early. So it's important that we make sure that they're getting out here early. So now you can see the age up that's coming through. It's a pretty quick age up. Not a bad little time that we've got here. We've got a villager that's accidentally been routed out towards that direction. Just keep them on the wood line, fellas. And now finally, our last bit of gold gets dropped off, 2 minutes 30, and we're going to have the twin minaret madrasa drop down. Make sure you don't lose your scout to the enemy TC. It's always a bit of a no-no. Now, these villagers here are going to be, the gold villagers are going to move out over onto stone. And now, this is where the build order gets a little bit tricky. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be balancing your economy. And so the idea is that you want to be essentially keeping the same amount of villagers on stone and wood, maybe a few more on wood, but keep in mind that the town center cost increase means that stone is pretty much even with regard to wood. The main difference that you're going to have with wood is that you've got a little bit lower gather rate on it, so it's important to remember that. When it comes to your villages under the town center, typically you'll see players or in certain build orders say just leave 4 on sheep. Me personally, I don't like to leave 4 on sheep. And you can see I'm moving villagers out over here. What I'm doing is I'm actually moving my villagers out here, depending on how much resources I've got in the bank, or how many resources I've got in the bank. And you can see here that I'm just trying to balance it so that I've got it, so I've always just got enough resources for the next villager. And that's what we're doing. We're sitting at 49 at the moment. So it's a little bit more complex, but you can see the ratio is very similar at the moment. We've got 6 villagers on wood, 5 villagers on stone. Now we're going to need to add in a house as well. And by adding in the house, it's going to cost us a little bit of wood, and we're going to need to do that with a villager. So we're going to use our stone villager here, just because we don't want to go too far ahead with stone. So it's these small little adjustments that we're throwing in, just to make sure that we're staying on course. Now, this build order should get the town center up about 450, about 5 minutes. It depends where you want to place that town center and how well you time it. Now, I've been testing with 3 villagers on the landmark instead. I think it can work, but it's going to be very tricky to work everything out and get it all in perfectly. So I think it's just best to stick with 2 villagers on the landmark. You do have a little bit of idle time for the second town center, because you can technically get it up beforehand, but that is essentially it. So from here, we're just scouting out the enemy. That's the big factor when you're playing in with a build order like this. You want to see what your enemy's up to, and typically against the English in a matchup like this, they're probably going to be going for their own second town center early. So you can see we well and truly scouted out the stone. But at this point in time, we're starting to rally more villagers out to wood. Wood becomes a lot more relevant because you're going to need to add more infrastructure in after the town center. So we continue rallying out here. The age up coming through, 4 minutes 55, and town center drop down straight away. So pretty early town center there, considering we've got the increased cost of the town center. And one of the things with the Ottomans is this civilization, they love stone. They love to take advantage of the stone. So you're going to drop that second TC on the stone just to make sure it's always safe. Now, as soon as your villagers have got the ability to, you're going to be having them out here on the Twin Minaret Madrasa. You want to be maximizing your efficiency and making sure that you're taking advantage of this. Now, you can see I did go for an archery range here. A little bit of a mistake on the positioning. I now move it to the front of the base, just because you're going to need to drop that blacksmith down. And this is where the transition period comes in. So if you're playing against an Abbasid player, maybe you want to go for 3 TCs. Maybe in this matchup, you want to just start out with 2 TCs. And with that, we can see now adding in a blacksmith. And from here, just looking to support villager production. And the build order, I mean, the transition is very, very smooth from here. We've now moved all of our villagers over to the Twin Minaret Madrasa. So making sure that we're eating our berries as quickly as possible. This is part of the reason why we want to eat our berries as fast as possible, is because these are free resources. These respawn after 120 seconds, but it's 120 seconds after they are depleted. So we must first deplete the resources down to 0, and then they will begin respawning. So it doesn't actually trigger the respawn until then. So now we've got our first military units coming out. We're just continuing to rally to wood. We're going to be focusing on archers, and we've now got our villagers moving back over onto stone. And the reason why we're keeping these villagers on stone is because not only do we want to add in an additional town center, but we also want to get military schools in, and that we're going to slowly add those in, and we're going to make sure that we keep them close to our town center. Really important to keep your military schools. Apologies. Very, very important to keep your military schools next to your town center, just because they're so expensive. And you can see that the health difference, 1,500 versus 2,000. But look at the cost difference. We've got a barracks that costs 100, and a military school that costs 150 and 100. So it costs a huge amount more, an extra 150 resources for barely any health difference. So make sure you keep those guys close to your TC. You want to be losing those last. Now, when it comes to your Imperial Council, Anatolian Hills, it's always going to be your best friend in a situation like this. And what you're going to be doing is, I'm making a little bit of a mistake here on this berry bush. Ideally, I want all my villagers on this berry bush. We want to be exhausting this as quickly as possible. So second TC is up producing vills, and you can see they're both rallying over to the wood line here. We've only got a handful of villagers on food, and that's all we need, because not only does the Twin Minaret Madrasa give you additional food that respawns, it also increases the gather rate on the food that it actually respawns with. So those 7 villagers are equivalent to like 11 villagers. So it's really, really nice to have this early and try and utilize it. And now what we're going to do is to minimize our walking distance. Let's ignore that fight. We're going to kill our sheep right on top of where the berries spawn, so that when the berries respawn and we actually see it, can be a little bit tough sometimes, we can move these villagers straight away over to that berry bush. But now we've dropped down our second military school, and you can see that we're working towards our second town center. Behind this, if ever we've got those extra amounts of wood, we're throwing down more production, and we can see now the archery range is going to come down because we're kind of stacking up that wood. Still only got those 5 villages over on stone for the moment. And one of the things I love about playing the Ottomans, you don't have to worry about imperial officials supervising mining camps, so you can put town centers immediately next to resources. Oh, it feels so good, dude. But now you can see that we're kind of like working towards that population limit as well, so we're going to throw down a house as well. And from here, this is just a general guideline on where you want to go. You can see that we're working up a bit of an archer mass here, but typically this is the kind of passive playstyle you'll expect out of the top level. Your games may vary, but this is the way I like to open when going for a playstyle like this. Of course, we've also got both of the military schools on Spahi. And we're working towards now that third town center, which is going to come down and going to drop it down on the hunt. So throw that one down. And we're going to move out a couple more villages, migrate these bad boys over. And from here, we can move into a couple of different transitions. We can go into the castle age. We can look to play it heavy in the feudal age. And my opinion for the Ottomans is the longer the feudal age goes, the better it gets for them. But one of the key things I'm doing here is moving villages over to gold. And the idea is that we want to start picking up upgrades. We want to be looking for iron undermesh. We want to start looking for double broadaxe. Double broadaxe is probably one of the best eco upgrades that you can get with the Ottomans, just because you're so heavy on wood. Typically, you're going to be focusing a lot on archers in the early game, but that is essentially it. That is the guideline. You can see it goes for a couple more minutes, but at this point, it's just me adding in more military units and production. I will show you guys. I always do like to leave one space free. You can see we're adding in more production. Oh, I'm going to switch off perspective. You can see it was easy AI about to age up, guys. It gets a little bit confusing. I hope that. I hope that extra point has been allocated. Okay, it has. So we're throwing down our third military school, but I always like to leave a space for the Mehmed Imperial Armory and leave it close to the town center, because if you do put it out here on the edge, there's a chance that you might get idled. So I always just like to leave a little bit of a space there. But you can now see the upgrades coming through, and this is typically what I love to do. You know, you throw 6 villages on gold, and then you just start thinking about all of your upgrades. You're getting your wheelbarrow, you're getting your survival techniques. You've only just expanded out onto the hunt over here. And that's essentially it. And so the replay is due to finish in about 30 seconds. But we've got a pretty decent mass here, and it's all about archers and Spahi. And that is going to be the first game. So we'll move now into the second game, which is more my favorite build order, even though I do think that first one is quite a safe build order. So we'll go into the second one. So I think this is a little bit stronger, this build order here, against civilizations that have got something to lose in the early game. So who are civs that have got something to lose? Ottomans. They've got something, or rather the Mongols are a civilization that's got something to lose because of their Uvu. So you can always look to put pressure on that and force them out. In the event that they've got the town center next to the Uvu, then you can always pressure the gold mine. Other civilizations that can potentially lose something are the Malians, because they're going to be expanding out onto gold with their pit mine, and they're going to be putting houses around their pit mine. Now, whether the intermediate AI does that or not, that's a different story, but you guys get the picture. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about this build order. I have already covered this build order in a video before, but we're going to focus because there are some refinements that have been made to it. So exactly like the last build order, we're starting off with all 4 villages being queued in the town center, but here we've got a little bit of a difference. So we're sending 5 villages out to stone. So what you're actually going to do is select all your villages, find your stone. So the best way to do that is normally look on your minimap, and then you're going to send them out to stone, and then you're going to select one, and you're going to tell them to go onto the sheep. From here, we're going to make sure that we move the scout around the basin. Again, going for that defensive play. So we're not really looking to go out onto the map and collect all the sheep. Rather, we just want to make sure that we can get at least 5 sheep, because our food economy is going to be so good from Twin Minaret Madrasa. We don't really need all those crazy sheep. And, if your enemies open double scout and they've gone one side of your base, other side of your base, there's a chance you get no sheep. And you want to avoid that. So let's continue. So we're rallying the town center onto food. Every single villager is just going to be going to food for the moment. 5 villages out here onto the stone outcropping. So these guys are going to do a single trip. So it seems a little bit inefficient, but I will explain how this works. So these guys do the single trip, and then they're all going onto a straggler tree. We can see that we've already queued up. So 2 straggler trees and then the wood line. One of these guys is now going to be dropping down a military academy next to the town center. We can see you've got an adjacent diagonal, travels like the bishop. And that is very specific because we want to make sure that we've got a bit of a free space that we're expanding into. And this is probably the most free space that we're expanding into, just because we're going to need to put down our our blacksmith. We're going to need to put down a stable. We're going to need to put down a racks. So that's what we're doing. So we're continuing now to rally to food. We've also dropped down a house 2 tiles away from the town center, so we've got space for farms. And we're continuing to rally to food. Villager that produced the military school now going to be coming out onto food. And these 4 just continuing to pick up the straggler tree. Now, they're going to make one more trip. And when they make that next trip, you can see we did actually go out onto the map, do a little bit of a dangerous right there. I guess we're up against the AI, so it's okay. So from here, what we're going to be doing is making sure we pick up one of these villages, and they're going to be dropping down a barracks immediately. Look at that, I even picked the right one. So he's going to be dropping down a barracks immediately, and then from there, he's going to be rallied out to food. And that's where it all comes down, because there's a whole lot of planning that's gone into this build order. Straggler trees have got 150 wood, so we've done 4 trips of 3. So 4 trips, and we've done 3 trips of 4. And that straggler tree is now finished. And now we've got 3 villages on this straggler tree, which will mean 5 trips. So it's all very mathed out when I did this build order. But now you can see we're going to be bringing back our sheep. We've still got plenty of food underneath the town center, so it's not a huge hassle. And the barracks is coming up. Now, the reason I like to go for an early barracks with the military school, because some people, you know, look at Fitzbro and look at his build order. All he likes to do is he just goes for the military school. My fear is that if you go for a military school only in the Dark Age, and you look to attack a mining camp or anything like that, these villages are just going to repel a single spearman. And so my theory is, well, let's add an additional spearman. In fact, let's add an additional 2 spearmen. And then that's going to bolster our early attack, and it's going to mean that the enemy can't actually just fend us off with villages. Or if they want to try and fend us off with villages, they're really going to have to commit to an aggressive defense. An aggressive defense? A defensive defense? I don't know. A big defense. Let's just say that. A big defense. That's what they're going to need to commit to, whether that be dropping down a barracks themselves, whether that be an outpost, or whether that means pulling villages from underneath the town center. It's something they typically want to avoid doing. But we now see the transition period. So the way that this is working is once we get to 9 villages on food, we're moving villagers out towards the mining camp. And it gets a little bit tricky, so I do apologize trying to explain this. So essentially, you want to have 1 villager collect 10 gold, and then you want to have 3 villagers out here at the same time. So essentially, you're rallying out a villager to build a house, and then that villager is going to build a mining camp. The next villager is going to go onto the gold vein, and then the villager after that is going to go onto the mining camp. It's a little bit complex, but essentially you want to get 3 villagers out here all at the same time starting to mine, and then that's going to mean that you can simply do 1 trip of 10 and then 3 trips of 30. It really bumps up the efficiency, and just like the last build order, we don't want to collect any more gold than what we need to. We only need that 200 gold. So from here, we're now rallying out to wood. You can see a little bit of a macro mistake here. We've once again pushed out. Now, we only want 2 villages from the barracks, and so we're applying pressure out here. Now, of course, typically there would be a pit mine here. There wouldn't be a mining camp, or there might be a mining camp, but there'd normally be a pit mine here. And so we'd be actually looking to hit the houses, because the houses do have a very small amount of health. So we'd be making sure that we focus down each of those houses. But that's not the case here. And now we've got the age up coming through, 415, not a bad little timing. And 5 villages are going to be coming out to the Twin Minaret Madrasa. From here, as soon as we've aged up, our gold villagers, once again, going to be moving over to stone. So you can see the common theme throughout. This is gold villagers moving over to stone. And then from here, it is all about that age 2 and the play once we get to age 2. So the goal once we get to age 2. So typically, our enemies just age up, 4 minutes 30. So what's their reaction going to be in this position normally? Probably an archery range, right? You're going to drop down an archery range, and you're going to get some archers out. So what should our response be to that? The answer is Spahi. And the reason why we want to go Spahi is because we don't want to lose these. And in fact, we want to make a gain from this. So we've already made some pretty cool gains so far. We forced our enemy off gold. We've also taken out a mining camp. And now we're going to force them off stone. We're also going to be able to siege out the mining camp. But eventually that archer is going to be coming out. Now, obviously, this is the easy AI, so it's a little bit different. But with that archer coming out, it means that we're going to have to fall back. And that's going to open them up, because one of the things we can look to do is try and bait the archer out. And if we bait the archer out, then we might pick up a couple of free kills in the early game and push the tempo in our favor. So we've got 3 villagers on stone. That's all we need for the moment. And now that we are entering into the transition period. So we're taking all 4 villagers that we had on food. I will just pause it. So we kept 4 villagers on food throughout this duration, and we were just rallying out to wood. We had 5 villagers on the Twin Minaret Madrasa, these 5 villages are going to go straight to the Twin Minaret Madrasa. So as soon as they're finished, you can see we're not rallying them. And then this is going to just cause them to go onto the berry bush that you've got at the Twin Minaret Madrasa. These 4 villages here, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these guys. They're going to build a blacksmith in the middle. They're going to build a stable, and they're going to build a military school. And it doesn't always happen perfectly. And you can see we're down a little bit of stone at the moment. So we're going to have to wait. Oh my Lord, that's loud. And you can see now we're all building the blacksmith, and then one's going to come off and build the stable, and then I think we get one off to go build the military school. And all of these guys are going to go to stone once they've finished building their production buildings. Of course, when it comes to our Imperial Council, we go for Anatolian Hills, no real surprise there. And these guys will eventually move over towards the top side of the Twin Minaret Madrasa, just so that we've got a little bit more efficiency in that regard. And so now you can see that we're working towards that Spahi change. Our spearmen are coming back across the map. We've got the scout here with us. So you can expect that your enemy's probably going to be tailing you here, looking to try and put on some early pressure. They may not know that you've opened a stable. And with this, because you've got these villages, which by the way, you're now rallying your town center out to the Twin Minaret Madrasa, because you've got your villages, and just to explain, your villages are on the Twin Minaret Madrasa. They gather faster out here. So it says 6 villages, but the reality is this is more like 9 villages. So you've got the resources here to make villages from your town center, and also you have the resources to make a Spahi from your stable. So it's all about exploiting the Twin Minaret Madrasa as soon as you can, so that you've got that extra effective villager production, or effective villager resources. Let's just say that. First Spahi out, 6 minutes 40. Your enemy might have pushed in with an archer or 2. Well, guess what? They're now dead, and you're gonna be able to chase them back across the map. And now you can start putting on your pressure again with the spearmen. You might be, you could be looking to put pressure on out here. You could be giving them a ring around the rosy over on this position. There's no reason why you have to come back to your base. You want to be denying whatever your enemy is doing. So ideally, your scout would probably still be sitting on the stone and be like, okay, well, he's gathered up 350 stone. He might be looking for an expansion. Where's his best expansion point? It's probably on this hunt. So you might be doing ring around the rosies to try and come out here and try and deny that out. But we'll pause it now, because you can see our resource count has finally reached that critical moment. All of our infrastructure is here. We're adding in another house, but here it is, the moment you've been waiting for, 7 minutes 20, and we've got enough resources to drop our second town center. There it is, and that's pretty much the build order. From here, you can go into it whatever way you want. Once again, I love going into 3 TCs from here, so I just send these villages back over to stone, and then rally out these town centers to wood, maybe add in villages onto food whenever I need it. But for the most part, they're just heading out to wood. You can see I kind of need to throw in a lumber camp. But that is essentially the second build order. Nice and simple, early aggression, decent little follow-up. So if your enemy overcommits with their archers, you're always going to be able to take them out. And you're going to be able to delay their town centers while getting all of your infrastructure up. If we take a look here, you can see, maybe we can pause the game before it closes out. But the reason why I like this build order is because you get all your infrastructure up at the beginning as quickly as possible, and it starts reaping those rewards for you immediately. So I'm a big fan of this. But let's dive into the third build order now, which is the one, as I said earlier, that I've got the least confidence in. Something that I probably, well, I'm not 100% sure on the best way to approach this. I'll be honest, I kind of winged this build order because I'm like, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what you're going to need. But there's a couple of theories in here that I'll do my best to explain as the game goes on. So this is going to be a trade-orientated build order. So the idea here is that we're going to be sticking to one base. We're not going to be making additional town centers, and we're going to be doing trade. And so from here, you can see 7 villages out onto, or rather 6 villages onto our sheep. We're going to move the sheep close to the town center. Of course, we've got the town center creating villages as quickly as possible. And our first village is going to be coming out to the gold vein. We're going to be making a house with it and a mining camp. So that exact same theory as before. The key difference in this build order is that we can actually, to be honest, I could probably switch up this build order in the early game, make it a little bit easier, because we're going to be keeping villages on gold, because we want to take advantage of our Sultan Hani trade network, which is the landmark that we're going to be going. But anyway, we'll just continue on for the moment. So you can see it's that same concept, 6, 1, 7, 2, and then adding the 8th villager onto food, and then we're going to be rallying out over onto wood. It's a pretty solid build order that seems to get you up at the same time every single game, and you always seem to have the perfect amount of resources. So I'm a big fan of this, even though it is a little bit harder to manage than just like your typical French, 8 and 4 or whatever it is, or the Abbasid 7 and 3. So now continuing to rally out over onto the wood line. And so what we're looking for in the early game is we're looking to try and find our our trading post. That's going to be the big factor. So you can see I went all the way to the corner to check if the trading post was up there. It wasn't, and so that means that it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me, but at the same time, it's actually going to be better for me. So just to explain, we will pause here and explain just the best way that you can actually take advantage of your trade. So you can see that I've got a trade post that's really close to me. Now, if I build my Salt and Honey trade network in my base, and I send my traders out to this trade post, they're just going to go to the trade post, and they're going to bring back like 11 gold, 12 gold. It's not going to be pretty, right? And then they're just going to return back here. It's not going to be efficient. So what I want to do is I actually want to have them trading all the way to a market up here. Now, that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult, because now you've got to suddenly defend your line. Your trading post isn't always going to be in this position. It depends on the map that you get. You might get a map where the trade post does spawn in this corner. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's going to be a bit more reasonable for you to send your traders from the Salt and Honey trade network out to the trade post in the corner. But in this situation, so the first thing is, for this build order, you've got to be a bit flexible. This is definitely a build order where, or a strategy where you've got to be a little bit more flexible in your playstyle. So we're keeping those villagers on gold. We're also rallying out to wood. And once again, you can see we've only got 2 villagers on food, but this is because we're just making sure we're balancing our economy. And I think I'm going to be able to keep up with my villager production here, even with only 2 villagers on food. And now we're rallying that third one out. 4 villagers here on the landmark, the Salt and Honey trade network. Now, as soon as we get up, we're going to be making sure that we get these bad boys out of their landmark. Make sure you don't lose that scout. So essentially, we're just scouting to see what the enemy's up to. Hopefully, they're going for a second town center, because I reckon that this build order might be able to outboom them. So we did move a villager out over onto gold. You can see this is quite an early age up, 3 minutes 50. We did move a third villager out onto gold just for a little bit, and that villager is now going to be coming up into the corner to build a market. Now, this villager did come out a little bit late, but that's okay. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and you can actually play around this. You can see that we're stacking up quite a bit of wood, and so the idea here is, as soon as we age up, we're going to be wanting to drop down a military production facility, specifically a stable, really, really important. And we're also going to be wanting to drop down that market in the corner. We also need resources to queue up our traders. So traders obviously reduced, and immediately the enemy spots out what we're up to, so you should expect a reaction. If your enemy sees you trading, expect that they will hit you very quickly. So market going to be coming down in the corner, and we're going to make sure that our Salt and Honey trade network, so just to explain the way that this works. So what you're going to do is each trader has the ability to set a home market here. Sets the home market for the trader. At the moment, the home market is this Salt and Honey trade network, which means once it collects its gold, it's going to be going straight back to the Salt and Honey trade network. What you want them to actually do is set their home net or their home market to this market in the corner. Now, they can't actually use that market until the market is complete, but they can pick up their gold. And you can do a little bit of a trick right here. So you can see we're sitting on 12 gold at the moment, and they're going to bring that back. But what we're going to do is when they're on the way back, we're going to set their home market to the corner. There you go. And now it's going to change their gold to 174. So you can still get pretty decent value out of this in the early game. Now, from here, what we're also going to make sure that we do, really, really important, is you're going to set your waypoints. So the first thing you're going to do is you take your Salt and Honey trade network, you're going to right-click on this market, and then you're going to shift click down to here. And that's going to come out, and that's going to set all of the traders to have a rally point, or set a home market of this market. You can see they come out, set their home market, and then they immediately make their way over here to collect their gold, and they're on their way. Oh, this guy, I might have forgot, because he was a little bit of a special case. There we go. I don't know why he's only carrying 12 gold. Hey, buddy, you got to pick up... is that a bug? I don't know if that's bugged, or maybe I just messed something up, but I don't know why this guy's only carrying 12 gold. He should be carrying 174. That's a ripoff. Yo, give me my money back. Anyway, we've got it all figured out now. 174 gold. So I'll let him off on this occasion. So now behind this, typically what you're going to want to start doing is walling up like a madman. So the best way I think about this is you can wall up your base, or you can wall up your market or your trade post. And apologies for that large sound. So when it comes to the breakdown of the way that you're going to defend, ideally you want to be defending half of the map with walls and half of the map with units. Eventually you want to get to the point where you're defending 100% of the map with walls. That is the dream position, because it means that your traders are always going to be safe, and that you're going to be able to address your enemy. Now, we've gone for something a little bit different here, and I'll explain the synergies. So instead of going for the very typical Anatolian hills, and you might think that this would have been mandatory in this situation, considering we didn't go for the food landmark, the Twin Minaret Madrasa, so we're not going to have those berry bushes providing us food, so we're going to need the sheep to provide us food, right? Wrong. Well, we're going all in, and we're going all in on the meta drums, and the reason why is because we've got that extra movement speed. Now, the reason why we want that extra movement speed is because our enemy is going to be hitting us all over the trade line. They're going to be attacking us here. They're going to be attacking us here. They might be attacking us down here. And what we need to do is we need to be able to get there quickly in a jiffy. And we need to be able to hit them as much as, or as fast as possible. And that's what meta drums is going to enable us to do, because it's going to increase the movement speed of our horsemen. It's going to increase of our Spahi. It's going to increase the movement speed of our archers. Anything that we keep in the group with the meta. So now we can see that we are adding in. Now, I didn't add in any walls in this game. I probably should have, just to sort of demonstrate. But if I was going to add in walls, I don't think you could fit walls in here. But I'd probably be looking to wall up my base on this backside. That would be the first place I'd look to wall up. This is a kind of nice and defensive area. And then I'd probably look to wall up over here. So there's a nice big wall that you could get in across here. And then that leaves you to defend this position all the way across to your main town center. So basically just means that you've got to defend this one little opening, maybe this area as well. And that's how you can sort of control the narrative and prevent your enemy from getting those big attacks in. But keep in mind, if they're going for a second town center, they're probably only added in their town center a minute ago. They're only just putting in their military production buildings. Take a look at the military that we've already got out. And we've got super fast military. Our Spahi out here, 1.88 movement speed. Hold on a minute. With the upgrade from the meta, that goes up to 2.16. So these guys are going to be able to track down anything and dish out that. But now with the surplus of gold that's coming through, we're able to actually utilize that and say, okay, well, what's the best way that we can use this? And we can start putting in our upgrades. And so already we've started just going absolutely ham with our upgrades, picking up +1 for wood cutting, picking up a mining upgrade, because why the heck not? We didn't actually have a mill to get our wheelbarrow, but don't worry, we'll be getting that very shortly. And you can still see what our villagers are working on the starting sheet, because we're not spending any extra food on extra villagers, because we haven't made a second town center. So it means our food drain is going to be a little bit lower than typical. But we are spending all of our extra resources on traders. Now, we're not making a huge amount of traders. We've only got 8 at the moment, but even that is enough to power us through this early game. We can reinvest those resources into more traders, and keep in mind you can use both markets to actually do this. You're going to get better value off the Sultanani trade network because it is closer to the gold point, the gold trade post. But yeah, you can definitely use both. And now we see more upgrades coming through. And from here, we're dropping down the blacksmith. Going to make sure we always get iron undermesh as our first upgrade. But 8 minutes into the game, and our trade's in a pretty decent spot. Typically at this point, if you're playing against an Abbasid player, they're on to 3 town centers from here. But why do I think that this strategy could be strong? Why do I think that this could be a really potential game changer for the Ottoman civilization? The reason why is because of the Janissary. The Janissary is a really expensive unit when it comes to gold. But what does this strategy specialize in? It specializes in gold. In fact, 174 gold a trip. So there's a huge amount of synergy there for that unit. But in addition to that, you also see things like trade bags, which increases the amount that your gold traders collect. So now not only, so we'll speed up the game a little bit. So we're just going to continue making units, and you can see Spahi going to be moving up towards the north. Now, typically we would have closed that down. Now get ready, because that loud sound is about to come through once again. But what we're going to be doing here is once again, so we're just, I think your goal in a game like this should be to build up a huge mass of archers. And so if you haven't watched the video where I talk about the civilization overview for the Ottomans, and we focus on the compositions, the composition that I'm going to be going for here is Janissary plus Archer with Springald. I think this has got a lot of potential. So now we've picked up trade bags. Trade bags increases the gold collected by 40%. And now all of a sudden, instead of going from 174 gold, if we have a look at the traders that are over here, 174 gold, our traders are now collecting 244 gold. So you can see there's some pretty decent synergy here for trade, for this civilization. And then we're attacked up in the north once again. You know, I probably should have walled it off. I should have walled it off. It was a little bit silly not to wall it off, but we're going to be over there addressing it now, up against that intermediate AI, and pumping out Spahi, pumping out plenty of archers and adding in more production. And the great thing about this composition is you can just make archery ranges, and it's really, really strong. But we're going to speed it up. We're going to go 8 times. I'm just going to show you what the economy starts to look like. So we're only on 15 traders. It's not a huge amount, but if we take a look at the resources a minute, to be honest, it actually wiggles around, doesn't it? It's definitely not indicative of your actual gold income. And there we see 1265, probably a bit more realistic. Little bit of a push coming in now. Spahi and archers. Nice little timing window here. So maybe we're thinking about pushing out. But to be honest, I think you probably wouldn't want to push out with this playstyle until you actually hit Castle Age. And I think you'd want to go for a Janissary timing. And so we continue pushing through. I'm going to speed it up again. Don't mind the push on the front. It's pretty irrelevant at the moment. But when it comes to age ups, we're looking to go for the Istanbul Imperial Council. So we're going to be dropping that landmark down. Imperial Palace, I apologize. I've still got to get that one down. And the reason why we want to go for this is because we've got trade bags. And so with trade bags, it's not part of the 5 core Imperial Council techs. And so we kind of need to go for this to add that in. In addition to that, when it comes to our Age 4 landmarks, we're not going to be going for the Istanbul Observatory. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go for the MIA, the Mehmed Imperial Armory. So now we've gone for military campus. So we're going to add in an additional military campus here. And you can see that that gold is now starting to stack up to 1,500 gold. And we're adding in archery ranges like no tomorrow. And so the idea here is that we're just going to start spamming Janissaries as soon as we're up to the next age. Janissaries are going to be our anti-cavalry. So part of the reason why I think, pushing like this is a little bit silly is because, well, your anti-cavalry is nowhere to be seen. And I'm just intentionally memeing at this point. But we can now see that Janissaries are starting to come through. And look at the production. It's just absolutely, like, the resources that you're getting in from this is a little bit crazy. Now, I haven't even been going ham with trade. We're only sitting on 20 traders at the moment. Typically you could expect to see 30, 40 plus traders. And if you've got a trade economy like this, uncontested, highly likely you're going to win. It is so hard to defeat a trade economy once it really starts to get going. But now moving out, looking to take food across the map, because keep in mind we don't have that Sultan Honey trade, or rather we don't have the Twin Minaret Madrasa. And more Janissaries moving across the map. And that's essentially it. We're just pushing... our composition here is going to be Janissaries, which are going to defend from cavalry, and archers, which are just going to kill absolutely everything else. And the mangonel, which your enemy could make to counter your unit, is going to be countered by the springalds that you're going to make. You're going to make a nice couple of forward siege workshops any second. Don't worry, we get to it. Next upgrade coming through. It's going to be Janissary Company, so a nice little addition to the push here. 6 Janissaries. We did fail to add in our 4th military school in the Castle Age, so we only got 6 instead of the 8 Janissaries, but that's okay. But this is just going to bolster the push now with the veteran archers coming in as well. I mean, and balanced projectiles. Things are just looking really solid, but that's essentially the way I see it going with these 3 build orders. So that's going to be it. That is your guide. If you've got any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll make sure that I go through that and get back to you guys. Other than that, that's it. I hope you guys are enjoying the Ottomans out there. They're a fun civilization, and I am definitely an Ottoman main. So I hope you'll be joining me on the ladder to play some Ottomans and join the Ottoman main club. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.